Afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. We have a couple of important announcements, and I know it's going to be a busy Friday by the time we close the week. I will start by telling you I had to make sure this morning when I woke up that I was following the right forecast based on the emails I was receiving last night from students and parents asking for an inclement weather day. I was trusting in the fact that the information that I was getting locally was accurate. But I do know that the snow is moving in. Later on this afternoon to the evening, I want to encourage everybody to be as safe as possible. So one of the things that we've said with regard to pandemic recovery plan and back to school plan is that we have to be prepared to pivot when the time comes for us to pivot based on the data that we're receiving and what we're experiencing in our schools. And it isn't any secret that, we're at probably the beginning part of a pretty significant surge in virus cases, and that's having an impact on staffing as well as student attendance, and not only for the public schools and private schools, but also for the entire community. So we know we're in the midst of something pretty significant, and it's going to be with us for a while. And therefore, we have some information that we want to put forward. We're experiencing a staffing crisis, and we're concerned as we speak about having sufficient staff in our buildings each week to keep our schools open safely for student in-person learning. We've said from day one, our goal within Lincoln Public Schools is to keep our schools open, keep our students learning, and keep our staff and our students as safe as possible. And we're experiencing challenges at every position: teachers, paraeducators, nurses, counselors, social workers, psychologists, transportation personnel, nutrition services, custodial, office support staff, administrators, campus security, and all of the other support positions that help run a school safely and a district safely. And we're also experiencing significant challenges trying to get substitutes in all of our classrooms for teachers that are impacted by COVID-19. And in fact, we hit a high just this week where 41% of the substitute requests were not able to be fulfilled with substitute teachers. Now, I want to be clear, that doesn't mean that classrooms did not have adult supervision. They did, but we're putting more and more of a burden on our staff that are in school to give up their planning periods to be able to cover classes. And I just want to pause for a second and just say thank you to our amazing professional educators that on a daily basis and probably multiple times on a daily basis are doing that so that we can continue to keep our classrooms open. So thank you, educators, and thank you those that support our classroom. It's very much appreciated. We also have a large number of students that are missing and valuable instruction due to either being in isolation, quarantine, or identified as a close contact. So this is impacting Lincoln Public Schools in a way we've never been impacted before. But we also know that students need in-person learning. They need to be in school whenever possible. So we've developed the following strategies to help us address the ongoing issues and sustain keeping our schools open during the surge. And I want to emphasize that this is temporary. This we're going to hope that what I'm about to announce is going to be enough to get us through this surge. And as we've been reading, hit a peak and begin a decline. So beginning next Friday for the subsequent 3 Fridays, January 21 and 28 and February 4th, we're going to move to what we call these are going to be COVID Response Fridays. And what this means is that students will not have classes either in person or remote, but our buildings will remain open. The strategy is necessary for us to sustain keeping our schools open. In addition, this will create an opportunity for students who are home due to illness to receive additional support from teachers on those Fridays. This will allow staff to recoup valuable planning time that they've consistently been losing due to having to cover classes Monday through Thursday. We understand that this will cause extra stress for families, particularly working families, and we don't make this decision lightly. COVID Response Fridays, we believe, will help us keep our schools open and help us navigate our way through the surge that we find ourselves in the midst of. But I want to be clear, these are not days off for our staff. Staff will still be working and supporting students. This is a temporary tool we can use to help catch everyone up and ensure prudent staffing levels when students are present in our buildings. We have systems and district supports in place to temporarily move any K-12 classrooms, whole grade levels, or entire school buildings to 100% remote learning if it is determined that sufficient staff is not available to safely operate in-person school for students. This will not be used district-wide, but only on a case-by-case basis. To help with that, we will be holding teacher-led practice sessions for kindergarten through 12 for K-12 students over the next week to ensure that we are prepared in the event we have to temporarily move a classroom, program, or school to remote learning. I want to underscore again, this is not something that we desire to do, nor are we looking forward to do, but we don't know what the future impact of the COVID virus surge is going to be. This will give teachers and students the confidence to make that switch from in-person to remote if necessary. Our community and our families have always been incredibly supportive and understanding, and for that, we are grateful. It's going to take all of us to get through this surge in order to get to the other side and begin to see some normalcy that every single one of us, students, staff, family, community, want to see occur. So in summary, beginning on January 21st, January 28th, and February 4th, we are declaring those days COVID Response Fridays, meaning students will be in school Monday through Thursday. And now next week, of course, there is no school on Monday, so it'll be Tuesday through Thursday, with the idea that Friday is going to be a response day to give our teachers an opportunity to get caught up and work with those students that are finding themselves not in school due to either isolation, quarantine, or through being a close contact. So that's our plan. It's got a finite date to it. On February 4th, we're hoping that we can get back to a normal schedule. That's going to be our goal. So I'll stop there, and if there are questions, we'll try to answer those.
Steve, we have a question from Aaron Bonderson. What goes into a decision to move to remote learning for a class, grade, or school? Does the principal monitor the situation, or can teachers make the decision?
Yeah, the principal is going to monitor the situation. Certainly it's going to come down to staffing. If we don't have enough staff to staff a school, we'll have to make that decision to go remote. And I do know that our principals are, very, very close to what our teachers are experiencing, and they'll have a pretty good understanding of what their staffing ratios are. So, so far we've been very fortunate, and a lot of that is due to the fact that our teachers are willing to step up and cover those classes.
Zach Hammock from the Journal-Star. Staffing shortages are nothing new since the pandemic began. How does this current surge compare to past surges, and how confident are you that this move will be enough?
Well, let me start with the second part of that question and tell you that we have about as much confidence in this today as anything that we've rolled out thus far. This surge is proving, or the virus is proving, to be a very formidable challenge for us from the staffing side. I will tell you that when we achieved 40% of our, we don't have enough. We just can't cover 40 to 41% of our classes yesterday with regard to substitutes. That tells us that's far exceeded anything that we might have anticipated. We have confidence that if our teachers know that if we can get through Thursday, that on Friday is going to be a catch-up day. We're really hoping that that helps them in terms of being able to just catch a breath, hit reset, get caught up, get those planning periods back that they've lost during the week for covering, and then work with the students that have not been able to be in school in person. We have confidence that that's going to at least help address that.
Question from Andrew Ozaki. How has the lack or limited testing compound the situation we're facing?
Well, it's been a challenge. We've heard from a lot of staff that getting a test, particularly a timely one, is difficult. Now, we understand through Health Director Pat Lopez, which I don't want to never miss an opportunity to just say thank you for the relationship we have with the health department, that there's some relief coming on the testing side, both for rapid and for the PCR. And I know if there haven't been announcements, there will be announcements to that effect. But I do know staff have expressed some concern with regard to testing. Director Lopez and her team have indicated that they are going to try to get us tests that we can actually have on hand at the building level, that our nurses will be able to supervise in the event that somebody believes that they may have been exposed or might be having symptoms. We want to continue to urge, encourage anybody with symptoms to get to monitor those symptoms and get tested as quickly as possible. And I think that's been another reason why, while we might have a high absence rate, we're not seeing transmission in our schools. And that, I think, is indicative of and supportive of the fact that we've had the mask mandate, since we came back from break.
Is the district looking to hire more substitute teachers right now?
Well, there aren't any more to be hired. Quite frankly, we've got the same number of subs we've had in past years. We've just got more absences. We were able to employ a significant number of college students that were graduating at semester, and those that weren't graduating, I know that Dr. Weber and the human resource team have been using students that are still working on their endorsements to come in and substitute. So it's all hands on deck. My office, LPSDO, we're asking all of our folks again, like we did last semester, to find at least a couple of days when we can provide relief at the building level. I want to thank the folks that I work with here that have been able to free up their schedule to get to the buildings. That's been somewhat helpful. If there's anybody that's listening to this that has an interest in substituting, get a hold of HR. I think it's a fairly straightforward process to get a substitute endorsement. We'll take any and all people that have the skill set to work with our children. And and honestly, there's been good response, as good a response as we could expect right now in the community.
Zach Hammock asks, how does this plan impact the number of hours students are required to be in the classroom?
Well, that's a great question, Zach. And, I can tell you what the commissioner has indicated to us is do what we have to do to keep our schools open, that's the number one priority. And then with regard to hours, and days and, Rule 10 accountability measures, those are things that I think the Department of Education, as they have in the last couple of years, will be very flexible with. We haven't used but one weather-related day. It looks like we're in a drought. I don't want to make any predictions because about the time I do that, things will turn the wrong way. So we want to do everything we can to get as many days in as we humanly and possibly can, but we can't continue with a 41% class uncovered rate, and this will give us a chance to address that.
Two questions. What will the school district continue to do with school sports, and how will your temporary policy affect sports and extracurricular activities?
Well, we're going to continue as is with extracurricular sports and activities. Again, we believe that our students and our staff and, hopefully most of our community are doing everything they can to make that as safe as possible. We've not had but a small handful of issues with regard to teams. So our kids have just responded fantastically. So we don't want to do anything to jeopardize competition. So we're going to continue with competition, at least for now. And would just ask that, for anybody attending events and activities, please wear a mask and to the degree that you can, social distance. we are in the midst of a very, very significant surge.
Are we asked a question from Andrew Ozaki? Are you asking local health department to re-implement a city or countywide mask mandate or health directives on indoor capacity?
No, we are not. That's their decision, and we're just. I did communicate to the health department this morning that we were going to do this today, and but we act independent of the health department. We rely on their guidance. We believe that that there are experts in the community, and we also have a very vibrant and I think connected medical community that provides input to us as well. But this is a decision we're making strictly on our own, based on our staff absences right now and our inability to be able to get that addressed the way we want it addressed, by continuing things the way we're continuing it. That's why we're going to do these COVID response Fridays.
Zach Hammock, some people have remarked that it feels like March 2020 all over again. Did you ever expect to be in this position again where you had to make a decision like this?
No, we didn't. I'll be honest with you. I think we started the school year thinking, we've got this figured out, we're in good shape. But then this Alma variant came, and I think it just absolutely caught all of America by surprise with how transmissible it is. And I'm somebody that actually was caught up in that myself. So we just, no, we didn't anticipate this. We expected this to be a normal year. I mean, every time I visit with students, as I did this morning. I just want to say to them, you're going to have a prom, and, we're going to have a graduation, and we're going to be able to do it without restrictions because, we've paid our dues on this whole COVID response, but, we're just not getting where we need to be as a community. And, I do think from what I understand, vaccinations and boostering is up, and, but we're still seeing a lot of cases. And fortunately, many of the cases with regard to this new variant have been pretty mild. And, we're getting people back now after 5 days, 6 days, as opposed to 10 and 14 days. And that's helping our staffing. And over time, that, should help ameliorate what we're faced right now with the classrooms that we're not able to cover with subs.
Andrew Ozaki wants to know how you're feeling, any effects from COVID, and what can you tell others about your experience?
Well, here's what I would say. I expected to be one of the last people to come down with it, primarily because my wife and I have really practiced safe habits. But I did get it. I tested positive last week. And I will say that because I'm fully vaccinated and boosted, and my symptoms were incredibly minor, and I feel great today. I came back to work yesterday. I'm still wearing our mask, which is really what our protocol calls for. But I feel like it was in a lot of ways. I've had colds, and I'm a person that's got year-long allergies. I would probably not have gotten tested if my wife didn't have a procedure that she had scheduled and we were asked to do that. But I think that's one of the difficulties with this strain of COVID is that, like for me, for example, the symptoms were nothing out of the ordinary, but I did acquire it somewhere. And I'm glad that I found out, because I was able to immediately put myself in quarantine and not be a risk to others. And I think that's something that, I do worry about with, anybody that has symptoms that, is not adhering to good, safe protocols.
Melissa Rosales wants to know, how are LPS teachers and staff feeling right now?
I think, well, first of all, I will tell you, our teachers have incredible commitment and resolve and a whole lot of courage. And for that, we're extremely grateful, and personally, I'm very, very proud of. I think they're tired. I think they're fatigued. I think it's just, everybody has to dig deep down and say, we have to push through this. Our community needs us. Our students need us. And at the end of the day, we're paid to do a job. So, we have to go to work and deliver. But it's been difficult and it's been hard. And, I think no secret to anybody listening to this webinar, there's several thousand schools that are closed across the country that have not been able to keep their schools open. We have. And that, of course, means that, we're going to have to address the kinds of things that we're addressing right now. So our teachers are warriors. And for that, I'm grateful. And I know our parents are grateful. And I know our community is grateful because our community relies on our schools being open. Our parents need that. Our students need that. And I do think a lot of teachers take great satisfaction in being a part of it. And what I've told our teachers today that I met with this morning is that I don't know when this is going to end, but at some point it's going to look a lot different in a positive way. And we're all going to look back and we're going to say, the one source of pride we have is that we kept the work going. We kept our schools open and we kept connected to our kids. And, for that, I know our community is grateful and we certainly are as well.
Question from Zach Hammock. Other urban districts have opted to go fully remote. I know you've said that kids need to be in the classrooms, but is that on the table given how dire the situation is?
Well, not at this time. It isn't. We did remote last year, and the results were not very positive. I think that adds an extra burden to our staff. Now, having said that, we're going to have the practices this next week in anticipation that we may have to do that with a classroom and, worst case scenario, a building. But we're going to try to keep that as limited as possible. The best place for kids to be is in school. I mean, we know that there is very little, if any, spread taking place for 6 to 8 hours a day in our schools. But what's happening is, and all we have to do is point to the holidays. As soon as our students and quite a few of our staff leave school, then the protocols are really what they define individually, and that's where spread is occurring. But it's not occurring in school, so we're better off. Our community is better off if our kids are in school and our staff members are in school, because we know it's a safe place as long as we have the mask mandate. And as I think everybody remembers, we intended to start this next semester following the expiration of the DHM, and recognized pretty quickly that our numbers said that just wasn't going to be feasible. So I'm happy that we were able to reimpose the mask mandate. But I can tell you, as I've said before, I really want to move this. We really want to move this to a matter of personal responsibility and let people make choices and keep themselves as safe as possible and get back to normal. That's the goal.
Andrew Ozaki is asking, will you review your policy on pay on leave for staff who need to quarantine?
Well, we have, if I understand the question correctly, we currently have COVID leave, and whenever a staff member is identified as a positive, there's a form that they can fill out and be eligible for that. And we're going to continue that, of course, as we work our way through the surge. But ultimately, we'd like to get out of the COVID leave because that's a source of funds that can be deployed elsewhere. But we want to make sure that our teachers are not penalized for acquiring COVID, particularly if it's in the line of duty, which again is very, very rare.
Question from Melissa Rosales. Will students and staff be required to double mask or upgrade their masks?
Well, we've made K95s available at the building. We've got more on order. We know that we've not received an official recommendation that everybody needs to wear a better grade mask. Many of our teachers now are wearing are either double masking or they've got the surgical masks. And again, I think we're allowing 3 per teacher, K95s. If they work through their principal, they can get those. So I know a lot of our teachers have told me that they went ahead and purchased their own K95s. I think with the Omni variant, and while it probably isn't conclusive, there's evidence that that a loose fitting cloth mask is not going to be a deterrent for the spread. And so, we're encouraging people to upgrade their masks where they can.
Any other questions?
Okay. Well, thank you, Mindy, for arranging this, and thank you to the members of the media for taking time out. And if you have any other questions, let us know. And one of the consistencies is that this is tough to be consistent. And what we know is we have to use the data in front of us and make the best decisions we can for 41,000 students and 8,000 staff, and keep our schools open. Because that's really the most prudent thing we can do. So thank you very much. Have a good weekend, everyone. And if need be, we'll talk next week.